Hey, happy Saturday, guys. Dr. Nathan Thompson here with Exemplify Health Center, an affiliate of the Wellness Way. Hope you guys had a great Christmas. Hope you guys also are going to be enjoying the new year, 2023. I wanted to go over something with you. I'm going to be going live today instead of on Monday because we have something really important that we want people to join, and it's called the Wellness Way No Sugar Challenge. For January, for the month of January. I'm going to go over with you kind of the ins and outs of it, and I'll explain to you really who needs to do it and also maybe who doesn't need to do it. Because I know anytime that we do challenges, it's not specific to people, to specific people. So I will tell you in clinical practice, I have put people on what we would call a no sugar diet. I'll explain to you what it is because it's no carbohydrates. It's not a no carb diet. It's not keto. And then there's also people who I have put on a little bit more higher sugar diets. And there's differences, there's nuances that are involved with it. But all in all, nearly everybody would benefit greatly by reducing the amount of carbohydrates that you're eating, specifically types of carbohydrates that you are eating. Now, if you join the group, and the link should actually be on the description of this video, there's going to be a bunch of resources that'll have questions and answers and also recipes and things like that that you can have and you can download. But I would say a majority of people really do need to lower their consumption of carbohydrates. Guys, there's this whole idea in the nutrition coaching field. I have my opinions on it, that it really just, they say it comes down to calories in and calories out. There's a difference, guys, between eating 2,000 calories of a Snickers bar. And there's also a difference between eating 2,000 calories of very nutrient dense food. If you try to eat 2,000 calories of broccoli, you pretty much wouldn't be able to. Now, I'm not advocating that, but it's very easy to eat 2,000 calories of a Butterfinger. I know people who have done that. So the whole idea behind the No Sugar Challenge is to start lowering your carbohydrates, very specific to certain ones, to do that for an entire month, and actually not to count calories either. So the idea of calorie counting and things like that, when they say just count your calories, you lose weight. Well, that also depends as well. If you understand hormones, if you understand the liver, and you understand the liver is responsible for fatty acid metabolism, you get problems with the liver. Yeah, this is why you'll have a problem with fatty acid metabolism. It's why you'll have problems with hormone metabolism as well. So I want to go over with you just a couple of ins and outs when it comes to the No Sugar Challenge. And then, guys, make sure that you join in there. Right now in that group, there's almost, I think, 20,000 people within that group that are going to be taking part in it. And I know with that, one of the things that comes with is it comes with a lot of questions, a lot of questions. So I want to give you guys the big idea, and there's some Q&A actually on the handout that you can download within that group as well. For Instagram that's watching right now, I'll see if I can post the link in the bio so that you guys have the opportunity to join as well. So let's talk about the ins and outs, guys. Before I actually do that, I want to show you actually a research article. And when I was kind of putting this together, I was like, one of the things I want to talk to you guys about is this whole idea behind fructose, okay? And the whole idea behind, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Guys, you would be really, really amazed at how many people truly do have the beginnings of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, the mid stages of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, the end stages of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But I will tell you something is that one of the things the people who will feel it first is not men, it's women. And the reason why is because any inflammation within the liver, a woman will feel it much sooner because of her hormones, because of her estrogen specifically that have to be metabolized in the liver in a lot higher amounts than actually men. So this is why, guys, there's so many people who are eating bad and they say, yeah, but I'm fine. I'm doing great. I have no issues. And it's kind of like this is if you're doing things that are destructive to your body and you are doing fine, it's not a validation for you to continue to do it. Because these things don't pop up in a year. They don't pop up in 2 years. These things, like many health condition, can take years in order to develop. And that's why a lot of these things in regards to fatty liver can also take many months, if not years, for them to be able to resolve by doing the right things. So non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is higher now in proportion to alcoholic fatty liver disease. When you talk about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, basically what you're talking about is liver inflammation. You're talking about the fatty infiltration within the liver, damage to the liver, and then destruction of specific hepatocytes in the liver, replaced with scar tissue at its end stage. And so basically, if you have less liver cells that are functioning, you're going to have a problem with everything involved with the functions of the liver. And one of them, yes, can be the ability to be able to metabolize your fatty acids, be able to take fatty acid and turn it into energy and turn it into water. Now, so if a lot of people do have issues with their liver, this is why a lot of nutrition coaches and stuff aren't talking about this. Why? They don't have training, other than maybe a weekend course. So they don't have the training to do this. And this is why it has to become a lot more nuanced than just saying, well, just start restricting your calories. If that was the case, you should need no coaching at all. You should be able to, in 5 minutes, Google how to measure, weigh and measure your food, and then start eating less, and then eat less and less. But my office is filled with people who have done that and who have made themselves very sick. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about a fatty liver first, and then say, hey, this is really what we truly mean by no sugar. And is it something that you have to do for the rest of your life? No, but do it for 30 days, and I will prove to you that it will cause a dramatic effect when it comes to your health. Now, but also this, some people, when they do it, they're going to have some problems with it. And if they have some problems with it, there's a reason why. There's going to be a reason why, and it really has to do with your liver. So in this article, the negative and detrimental effects of high fructose on the liver with special reference to metabolic disorders. What they say is the increased consumption of fructose in the average diet through sweeteners such as high fructose corn syrup and sucrose has resulted in negative outcomes in society through producing considerable economic medical burden on the healthcare system. Interesting, huh? You mean that cheap food is actually costing us more money? Ingestion of fructose chronically has contributed to multiple health consequences such as insulin resistance, obesity, liver disorders, and diabetes. And one of the reasons why fructose is harder on the body is just because of its inability to use it as an immediate energy source. Okay. Now, one of the things people say is, because when we do the no sugar challenge, we actually say no fruit, and people lose their minds. They lose their minds. When I say, well, fruit doesn't give you a fatty liver, you're right, it doesn't. But you know what? If you are having issues with a fatty liver, I've even restricted people's fruit clinically in order to help with their fatty liver, because the question is why get it? Because you can get the same nutrients from other foods, get it from other foods without adding any additional fructose as well. So guys, when you talk about doing a no sugar challenge, there's always critics that are going to do it. It doesn't matter. This is one of the things that we will use clinically in the office. So we use it clinically. But the great thing is that we also test and we also retest people. And we look at lab markers, and it goes into a lot more detail than what people are telling you to get ordered as some kind of take-home test with a finger prick. So they know that high fructose corn syrup especially is extremely damaging to the liver. And that is why doing a no sugar challenge may be actually the right thing for you. Okay. Here's what the goals are of the no sugar challenge. And I tell people, because everyone's going to message me, they're going to, should I do it? I'm not going to give you that answer. Okay. Because I can't respond to, 500 requests of people. It's just impossible. So here is what the goals are. So figure it out. If this would be a goal for you, then absolutely you could join the no sugar challenge. So number one of the first things is you want to decrease your cravings for refined carbohydrates. Oh boy. Now it comes down to this, guys. Is sugar, do people have addiction to it? And yes, my opinion is yes, very much so. Okay. The reason why, because so many people want to say, no, it's not addictive. Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you not having sugar for, let's just say 3 or 4 days, if that changes your mood, then yeah, there's probably a problem with that. The reason why I also say that it's addictive is if a person knows that what they're eating is killing them and is unable to change, then what else can you call it than some kind of addiction? Now, will we always crave carbohydrates? 100%. And in fact, this is, again, not a no carb diet. There is actually, you can eat as much abundant carbs as you want, as long as it fits within a certain category. So you will always want carbs. People will always want them, but this will dramatically decrease your cravings for having refined carbohydrates. Number two, the other thing is the goals is that we want to reset your palate. I think this is very, very important because most people, all they do is they are craving sweets all the time. They're craving sweets. And in fact, when people will go on, the Wellness Way no sugar diet, all they start asking about is, what about all of these natural sweeteners? And they try to make some kind of workaround with things like stevia, xylitol, monk fruit, and they still want the dessert, they still want the sweet, but they just don't want the quote unquote calories with it. We want to actually reset your palate because most people only try to eat sweet and they have no idea really what bitter tastes like. And this is actually true with some of the herbs and things like that, like dandelion root, for example. We give a person some dandelion root, and the bitterness is so overwhelming to them because really they're just not used to it. So we want to reset your palate because I want you to think about it. A lot of people just all they care about is sweet. A lot of times people will say, "Oh, well, I don't like this food." I'm like, "You didn't like coffee, but somehow you became addicted to it." You can develop a taste for anything. Number three, what we also want to do is we want to decrease inflammation, guys. Now, I will tell you this. If you want to lose weight, and I'm talking about pounds, not necessarily body fat, because some people are carrying a lot of extra weight because of this very thing called inflammation. And that's why when people who start to work with me in the office, I've seen people lose 20 pounds in a month. And actually, we didn't put them on a no sugar diet. One of the first things that we had them do is avoid their inflammatory triggers, which is why we did a food allergy test measuring all 4 IgG subclasses in order to make it a true allergy. You cannot get that through a skin prick test that you take home called Everly. And the reason why is they started losing inflammation, because think of this, when you're inflamed, you're going to hold on to water. You sprain your ankle, it gets swollen. The same thing that can happen within your joints and also within the gastrointestinal system when you keep bombarding the body with inflammatory proteins. It's an immune response. Now, sugar too will also decrease inflammation as well. One of the biggest things that you can start to see is you will see changes, especially in the face, when it comes to decreasing inflammation. Guys, this is why things like rosacea, not a skin issue, it's inflammatory issues. Skin issues are inflammatory issues. So many things we think you're treating it at the surface level rather than getting to the real reason why you're having an immune system response. So definitely decreasing inflammation. And the last thing is lose weight. I put a question mark there. And the reason why is because most of the people try to do this to lose weight. But the reality is some people will and some people won't. And there's a very specific reason why. So that's why we put that in a question mark, because the goal isn't to lose weight, but a lot of people will, but some people won't. And they're going to think the diet doesn't work. But the reality is that you got to look deeper, especially when what's happening, especially at the level of the liver. So that's what the goals are, guys. I'm going to tell you let me go back, what it is not. All right. It's not a weight loss program. Guys, we have people lose tremendous amount of weight in our office. And you know what? I never talk about it. I never talk about it with people. They usually tell me, but I am not telling them that you have to lose weight. One of the things you do, guys, is you should be worried about weight absolutely last. Do the healthy habits, restore healthy physiology. The weight will take care of itself. And that's why very rarely do I tell people, here's how many calories you should be eating. And in fact, usually the only people I tell them is when I need to tell them to eat more, because it's these people who completely calorie restrict because of some kind of eating disorder. And I tell them, hey, you should be eating a lot more. So it's not a weight loss program, guys. Also within that group, it's not an opportunity for health advice as well. Guys, like a lot of times people will message me and they'll ask me questions and I'm like, where's your labs? Well, this is what I have. And I say, hey, your labs are incomplete. Then get proper labs, work with Wellness Way doctor, and then work with them. Because when it comes to, that specific kind of health advice, most people's lab testing are woefully incomplete. People even talking about hormones, the lab testing that they're recommending is woefully incomplete. You need to get a great picture. This is why when we're running things like thyroid with hormone panel, it is not 7 markers. I mean, we're talking about 60 to 70 markers. That's why when you run a thyroid panel, there should be 18 markers and not 3. So as far as health advice, you need a lot more context with some of the questions that people ask. And the last thing is, it's not some kind of healthy dessert group as well. Yes, there are things that you can do, replacing things with what would be considered natural sweeteners like stevia or xylitol, monk fruit, and things like that. But I tell people, it's like, actually, what I want you to get away is just get away from the whole idea of constantly needing sweet. Because if you don't get away from that idea of constantly needing sweet, then as soon as you finish up, well, where you're going to go back to is you're just going to go back to sugar again. So really work on that. So here's some common questions. Dr. Nate, will I lose weight? Maybe, maybe not. I'll be joining it, guys, with you. And I actually may lose some weight doing that. But the whole idea, the whole goal of it is not to actually lose weight. Now, if people are really concerned about weight loss, one of the first things we say is to say, do the healthy habits first, okay? Because a lot of it has to do with a lot of people with liver metabolism, the ability to be able to take fatty acid and turn it into energy and water. So a lot of people don't have, their livers are so beat up, they don't have the ability to be able to do that. And so one of the things that will happen is they start restricting their sugars. They start going through their glycogen stores and their in the liver and their muscle mass, and then they will lose some weight. And that just has to do with the fact that they've lost some water weight. That's the same thing with inflammation as well. People will come in my office and say, Dr. Nate, I lost 20 pounds. Hallelujah. I'm like, congratulations. It's all water weight. So will I lose weight? True fatty acid metabolism really has to do with the liver. And so that's where people are saying it's not happening now. Well, the reality is that you need to probably work with a Wellness Way doctor and then figure out really what's going on with the liver, because people who have problems with losing fat are also the ones who are also having some hormone issues as well. So will I lose weight? Who knows? Dr. Nate, why do I feel so fatigued? You probably will feel fatigued, especially going off sugar. Hunger and fatigue are common things. And for some people, it can last for 3 days. Some people, it can last for 14 days. So fatigue, hunger, you may have headaches and things like that. And it's actually not the body doing the wrong thing. It's the body doing the right thing. So why do I feel fatigued? Well, that's one of the reasons why is because your main energy source is carbohydrates. And so that's why you may have to try to sustain eating carbohydrates every 4 hours, in your normal everyday life, or else you're going to have problems with fatigue. you don't have the ability to be able to either raise cortisol to start to mobilize sugars from your muscle, in which a lot of women, especially who are chronically inflamed and are dealing with a lot of issues, their adrenal glands are very downregulated because of inflammation. But the other thing is too is you just can't actually go into fat burning very well, and you can't sustain your energy levels throughout the day. So that's the reason why you can feel fatigue. Dr. Nate, when do my sugar cravings disappear? Never. They're never going to go away completely. Our bodies are designed to eat sugar. Our bodies are designed for survival. And so they're designed for survival. It's very easy to want the easiest and most readily available food. But we don't live in the United States in a position of food scarcity anymore. So they'll never really truly go away. But they can dramatically start to go down once you start going off of the sugar. Now, a lot of people ask me, what about food allergies when you're doing the no sugar challenge? Especially people who have had a proper food allergy test. Food allergy test always trumps, food allergies trump everything else. And so that's why when you are looking at the resource list as far as foods to enjoy, foods to avoid, then one of the things that you do is just cross-reference it to your food allergy. But always the number one, when I talk about nutrition, inflammation trumps insulin over everything else. Because guys, if you're chronically inflamed, nothing's going to work right. It's like wondering why, when people come in, I'm like, you don't have an illness, you're injured. And you just keep injuring it, and you don't know what the mechanisms of injury actually are. So it's no different than someone who comes in after a year to go to their doctor and say, doctor, the scab on my knee isn't healing. What's going on? Do I have some kind of genetic scab condition? And the doctor says, well, how did you get the scab? Well, every day I fall down on the buckle in the sidewalk and I skin that knee. So doctor would say, well, it's very easy for that scab to heal. Maybe you should take a different path, or walk around that buckle in the sidewalk. And so that's why when you talk about inflammation, it's always going to trump everything else. How about this one? Can I work out? Okay. Can I work out? Yeah, you can work out. But it also depends. And I tell people, you may not feel like you want to work out during this time. That's okay. By the way, working out, as far as trying to burn fat, is probably one of the worst things that you can try to do, is restrict your food and then do endless bouts of cardiovascular conditioning for long periods of time, especially guys, for women. And the reason why is it has to do with cortisol, and it has to do with progesterone. If you look at hormones, you look at the sex hormone pathway, steroid hormone pathway, you will actually see that your body can go down pretty much like two routes. It can go from pregnenolone to progesterone, or it can go from pregnenolone to cortisol. So excessively stressing yourself out by constant worry, by not sleeping enough and increasing your cortisol exposure, and then actually increasing cortisol exposure by doing long cardiovascular conditioning every day for 30 to 60 minutes. It's just too much. You have just way too much cortisol exposure, and you only have so much pregnenolone. And if the body is under a stress state, it will always choose stress over fertility. So can you work out? The answer is yes. But if you want to know my opinion on when women should be working out, especially if you're a cycling woman according to your menstrual cycle, I think I have a YouTube video. You'll have to search back because I don't have them archived very well, about the best times to be doing high intensity exercise during specific weeks of your menstrual cycle. So working out, okay? Now, a lot of people in this group, when you go to it, you're going to see a lot of people, is X allowed, okay? And if it's X allowed, I tell people, whatever it might be, some kind of exotic food or something. I'm like, guys, just get the big idea. Get the big idea and try not to become such a, I'm trying to find the workaround with this. And a lot of times if people are asking, is such and such allowed? It usually has to do something that is extremely sweet. Can I skip a meal or intermittently fast? Yes, you can, intermittently fast if you want to. Okay. Guys, fasting in the true sense of the word is going 24 hours without food. Dr. Nate, what's your opinion when it comes to fasting? It's great for guys, but no for women, especially cycling women. And the reason why is because when you fast, blood sugar is going to go down. Cortisol levels are going to go way, way up. And if you do want to mess up your menstrual cycle, then go ahead and do a 3-day fast. There's other people that should not be fasting as well. When we test their hormones and we're looking at their cortisol output, and again, people who have very, very low cortisol, best way to measure it is on a Dutch test. When they have very low cortisol, there's something involving their immune system. And this is why when we see people with very low cortisol output, free and total cortisol, they're usually really fighting something when it comes to their immune system. And it can be things like Lyme, it can be mold toxicity, excuse me. It can be infection, things like that. But if this is part of your normal routine, then yep, absolutely. And in fact, when it comes to me with eating, a lot of times eating is a secondary thought. So I haven't eaten today, and I probably won't eat until about 12 or 1 o'clock. So yes, absolutely, you can do that. Is coffee or alcohol allowed? Okay. So alcohol, no. All right. Coffee. I would say yes, you can do coffee, but then skip all of the creamers and all of the other things in which you add, sugar to it, and you're adding a lot of lactose with creamers and things like that. But yeah, if you want black coffee would be absolutely fine. Okay, so guys, the big idea, all right, about the no sugar challenge is that it is not a no carb challenge. It is not a ketogenic diet. I know that we'll probably get some comments with some, drive-by comments. Them say something kind of, silly or sarcastic or something, and they won't even watch the whole video or actually watch all the videos that we do in order to get more context. But the idea behind it is eat meats and veggies. Okay, like if you really stuck to it, kept it simple, meats and veggies. What are the veggies? Basically with a glycemic index of under 50. And guys, it's just as easy as just Google glycemic index and then look at a certain food and then look at what the glycemic index is. So when we say glycemic index, guys, basically what we're saying is how quickly that sugar is absorbed and impacts your blood sugar. So for example, straight glucose is at 100, and then they measure it from everything else. So that's why when you look at certain things like watermelon, there has a very high glycemic index. When you look at carrots, for example, actually has a pretty high glycemic index. But Dr. Nate, don't I need the vitamin A? Actually, it's beta carotene, and it's not retinol. Beta carotene is not the active form of vitamin A. Very little beta carotene actually gets converted 3% into retinol. So guys, if you're saying, well, I'm concerned about my nutrients, you can get them from veggies, and also where you can get a lot of your nutrients is like nature's multivitamin, which is considered liver. But I don't like liver. You can take it in capsule form then. So eat meats and veggies, glycemic index under 50. We've given you a list of foods to enjoy and foods to avoid. Another great thing, guys, this is actually what I do is a lot of ancient nutrition bone broth protein, just because it will be the least allergenic for a lot of people, because the constituents, the proteins are coming from basically bone and tendon constituents, rather than coming from something that is milk derived or pea protein derived. A lot of people that we've seen have a lot of allergies, especially a lot of these vegan proteins that contain all of these different ones. And it is possible to have allergies. And at some point, it's not going to be helping you anymore. So if you guys keep it simple, the people who are most successful are the people who keep it very, very simple, and don't stress about all of the small stuff. Now, before I close it out, let me go ahead and I'll see where you guys can actually go to, and it's going to be this. Okay. So what you can do is, I think in the description of this video for Facebook and for YouTube, you'll see a link to be able to join this group. It's only on Facebook. And then, but basically if you go to Facebook and you type in the search, the Wellness Way No Sugar Challenge group, just type that in and you'll be able to find it, be able to ask to join. And then when you go there, you will actually see lots of files that are there. And guys, this is again completely free to join. The doctors with the Wellness Way that I am personally part of are some of the best doctors when truly understanding physiology in the body. But there are tons, guys, of resources for you within the group as well. And so my challenge is to do it for 30 days and see how you do. And if you're not feeling better from doing it, then figure out why, because it's just getting back to really, truly how I believe people should be eating. And in fact, you'll see as one of these resources, this is one of the things that you will get for free. And there'll be some frequently asked questions, food to enjoy, foods to avoid. And yes, I believe in restricting some foods, especially if it's not advantageous to your health. But there's a lot of questions. And then in addition to that, a lot of wonderful, wonderful recipes that are actually linked to. So you just click on the recipe and it will take you to that specific web page for the recipe, for the actual recipe. All right. So guys, I'll be in there. I'll be doing it with you. I believe that it's important that if the doctor's recommending that they do it as well. And so remember, anything that I recommend to my patients, I promise you, I've always done it myself. And so, especially if it's something that's going to improve my health, it's something that's going to move me forward, because I'm not getting any younger. And the older you get, the harder you have to work in order to maintain a great level of health. So guys, look forward to seeing you guys in that group. Just follow the link to get registered or to join that group. Just wait for approval. But the challenge starts tomorrow, January 1st. And this time, let's do something epic that you're going to stick to for a long period of time. So guys, be well, be blessed. Remember who you are. I hope you guys have a great New Year's, and I hope 2023 is awesome. Be well.